Yo, what's up guys? Welcome to another video on AJ's Thoughts on Movies. Today we're going to be ranking all of the Avengers films, and I'm including Captain America Civil War. Comment down below what your ranking of the Avengers film is, or even just your favorite, and let's get started. Alright, so kicking things off at number 5, we have Avengers Endgame. Now I know this is probably a very unpopular opinion. It's in last place. I'm just going to say I don't think any of the Avengers movies are bad films at all. It's very hard to rank them, but I do think that Avengers Endgame is the weakest, and I'll tell you why. Part of the journey is the end, and this movie does a really good job at ending the whole saga. So this movie takes different moments from different MCU films and puts them into a new perspective, and with that time travel aspect, it's a really clever way of reliving the MCU and reminding us of how far we've come and what has gotten us to this place. However, it's for that very reason that I think that this movie doesn't make my top 3, because it tries to play on our nostalgia and use different scenes that we've already seen. It doesn't feel as much of an original film or in line with the comic books as some of the others on this list. I love the emotion that this movie brings with the whole 5-year time gap after the snap, and it's kind of depressing, and we can see our characters, how they're affected by Thanos. In that way, I feel like this movie is more real than the others. Sometimes the heroes don't win, sometimes there's a consequence to our actions. And I really love the final act of the film where Thanos shows up from 2014 and we get the third act and the final battle between Thor, Captain America, and Iron Man versus Thanos, and then Captain America lifts Mjolnir. That's super hype. I love all the moments in this film, and especially the portal sequence when Sam comes in on your left and we get all the Avengers. Cap finally says, "Avengers assemble," and it's beautiful. I was like cheering just like every one of you. But it's only the third act of the film that really makes it on this list for me. This movie does a really good job at connecting with our characters, and especially the tragic death of Tony Stark. We feel that. I was crying, my friends were crying, we were all just feeling the emotional weight of Tony Stark's sacrifice, and it felt very real and very earned. Also, side note, I'm really glad that they gave the Captain America's shield to Sam and not Bucky. It's really cool that both of them have gotten it in the comic books, but I don't think that Bucky has necessarily done anything to deserve the title of Captain America more than Sam. I think Bucky has kind of just been a victim of his mind and of Hydra, and it sucks to be Bucky, honestly, I get that. But I feel like Sam is more of a hero. But I think the movie as a whole tries too much to lean on that nostalgia, and it's just not as good as some of the others on this list. Okay, up next we have Captain America Civil War. Now, I know what you're thinking, this isn't an Avengers film, it doesn't have Avengers in the title. However, I'm going to list this as an Avenger movie because it feels like an Avengers movie. It feels like all of our characters are together and they're a team. In this movie we have two different teams, in Team Iron Man and Team Captain America, but I still feel like this movie is all about the consequences of the Avengers and how they're going to react after they're being held accountable for their actions. In some ways I feel like it's even called Captain America Civil War to try and get you to feel like you're on Team Captain America. But we're still getting equal amount of screen time with Iron Man and with Cap and with Bucky. I love the introduction of Black Panther in this movie. I think that his character is actually one of my favorites on this roster of heroes, and we see that he's more of a martial artist and he's a man in a cat suit, and it's just really cool. It really is like Batman and Spider-Man mixed. And I love the airplane sequence between Team Iron Man and Team Captain America. We're first introduced to Spider-Man, and that's super cool. And the ending of this film is really interesting as well, because we see that not everything can be fixed by the end of the movie. This is going to lead on into Avengers Infinity War, with Tony not trusting Cap anymore, and Cap, leaving the Avengers. Captain America has given up his shield, he's given up the mantle of Captain America, and he's going on to do what he feels is right. I think some of the cons for this movie are that it feels too political at times. Like, I know it's Captain America Civil War and it's supposed to be political and you're supposed to choose sides on what you want, but it kind of takes that too far in that it tries to turn even Tony into a politician, which I don't think is in Tony Stark's character at all.
I tried to play ball with these ass clowns. F you, Mr. Stark. F you, buddy.
I think that the end reveal of Zemo and Bucky killing Tony Stark's parents is really cool, but the way that they lead up to it and they show Zemo going through Hydra and finding all the clues and everything, how it just leads up to that moment, it's not very believable. You can't really believe that he was smart enough to plan that exact moment that Tony walks up and he'll be playing that footage. And in that way, the story is just a little bit convoluted in itself and it starts to contradict itself. After the Winter Soldier, the Russo brothers came back to direct Civil War, and this is kind of their second chance to prove themselves as the best directors for the MCU. They do so, and that's why they go on to direct Infinity War and Endgame, giving them 4 movies in total. Captain America Civil War feels like an Avengers movie, but at the same time it doesn't tick all the right boxes, so that's why it's going to get number 4 on my list. Alright, up next we have Avengers, the original Avengers. This movie did something we've never seen before. It took heroes from separate movies and put them all together, and we got that shared universe. The MCU as a whole is something we've never seen before, and it's really well done. We've seen it in comic books and we've seen it in different TV shows, and now we get to see it on the big screen. I think Joss Whedon does a fantastic job at really honing in on these characters and seeing how they blend together as a team. Or as Bruce Banner puts it, they're not a team, they're a time bomb. I love the little interactions we get with each other when Captain America, Iron Man, and Thor meet for the first time in the woods, and they fight and they gain respect for each other, and then all of the little back and forths between Captain America and Iron Man showing the evolution into Civil War, that they don't agree on almost anything other than protecting innocent people. Out of all the movies on this list, Avengers is definitely the most lighthearted and has that MCU humor, and it even has a different color tone. I will say I'm not a big fan of how this movie looks visually. I feel like it looks almost like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show more than the Avengers movies. The Russo brothers take the Avengers in a much different way, and they take a different tone, and even the way that they saturate and color their films is different. So that might explain why it looks so different. But at the same time, Joss Whedon did do Age of Ultron, and I feel like that has a similar tone to Captain America Civil War or even Endgame than Avengers does. I think by far one of my favorite parts of Avengers is just Loki. His character and the way that they make him a villain and make him so charismatic, and you see that trickster side of him. I think they nail Loki so well. Tom Hiddleston does such a great job at bringing that charismatic, quick-witted Loki to the film. We can see more of Loki and Thor's relationship as they have that love-hate relationship with each other. And the final battle between the Chitauri and the Avengers is just spectacular. The special effects look great. The aliens look really cool. We see different shots of the Avengers actually working together. I love the scene where Captain America is bouncing Iron Man's beam right back off to the Chitauri. It's so cool. And each Avenger gets their little moment in the sun to show what they can do. And it looks awesome. I do think it's pretty stupid, however, when they put the nuke through the portal and all the Chitauri just shut down just because their home planet or whatever is gone. Are they robots? Are they controlled with chips or something? Why do they all just die because their ship is destroyed? It's not Phantom Menace. It doesn't make sense. Alright, and at number 2 we have Avengers Age of Ultron. I think this movie does the best at showing the Avengers, as a team working together. That first 10 minutes of them infiltrating Hydra and destroying their base and taking down Strucker is one of my favorites in the MCU. It shows the Avengers working together, and each one of them knows their strengths, knows their weaknesses. I love the scene where Thor hits Mjolnir on Captain America's shield and they just take him out. They've been training, they work together for a while now, and they understand each other. I think that the idea of Black Widow and Hulk's relationship was a little rushed, but it also makes sense when you think about it. And it's a good way of keeping the Hulk under control and making him more of an asset. I think that James Spader does a really good job of bringing Ultron to life. I like that they kind of put Tony Stark's attitude and his character into Ultron, and they have that dialogue back and forth between each other, and it's almost like they're talking to a mirror, both of them butting heads, and they're not going to let go. I like how Ultron is visually, but he's not as menacing as he is in the comic books, and I feel like the Age of Ultron was really just like a couple of weeks of Ultron. I would have liked to see like an end credit scene where Ultron actually survives and starts building his forces, and then maybe later on, in phase 6 or phase 5 or whatever, Ultron like comes back with like a planet full of little Ultrons. I really like seeing the transition of Paul Bettany from Jarvis into Vision. I think they did a really good job at bringing Vision to life and making him pretty accurate to the comic books, both visually and characteristically. It's super awesome when he's able to lift Mjolnir just like totally nonchalant, hands it to Thor, and they all know they can trust him now. For me, I'm watching this movie as a fan, and as a fan, I love it. I think they nail it so well. A lot of people complain that there's too much going on in this movie to keep track of and to care about, but for me, I know the comic books, I'm a big Avengers fan, and I kind of see where they're going with it, so it all makes sense to me. But I can see how a Mind Stone, Ultron, Vision, Civil War, all of that building up in one movie can be a little bit confusing for some people. I actually think that the introduction of Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver was handled very well. While they're not able to be mutants just yet, it's cool that, we see that they were created by Strucker and they have their powers from the Mind Stone, and that's also a really key part in Infinity War later on. Like some other people, I would have liked to see Quicksilver in some other films, but I think they did him justice by turning him into a hero by saving Hawkeye. Hawkeye could not have died in that movie. We learned to care for him so much as we're seeing him as a father and as a husband and as really the backbone of the Avengers, or the heart, if you will. So it would have been a huge blow to lose Hawkeye, but instead we get to see Pietro become a hero, save Hawkeye, and how that affects Wanda. Age of Ultron is something I will always enjoy watching. I think it's very well made. I love seeing the Avengers be a team and be together, but at the same time seeing how they interact with each other and how they fight sometimes like a family. And I love the idea that they put in this movie of Ultron says we're monsters, and it matters if he's right or wrong. And coming in at number 1, we have Avengers Infinity War. I think Avengers Infinity War does everything that Endgame does, but without that nostalgia aspect. It just brings our characters together. We get to see Tony and Star-Lord and Doctor Strange all work together, and then we see Captain America and Black Panther, Thor and the Guardians, more specifically Rocket and Groot. I love all of the little interactions, and this movie does such a good job at spacing it so that we don't forget which scene is happening at what time. I think that Josh Brolin does a fantastic job of playing Thanos in both this movie and in Endgame. The CGI from what special effects is probably the best there ever has been. The fact that they stretch his skin pores in the CGI it's unreal. But from the opening to the end of the movie, I am on the edge of my seat waiting to see what's happening next. The pacing of this movie is fantastic. The action scenes feel real. They feel gritty and like the characters are fighting to survive. Thanos and his 4 horsemen are very real threats, and you can feel that in this movie. I think the humor's awesome. All the scenes between Peter Quill and Tony Stark is just hilarious. Drax is actually really funny, whereas in Guardians 2 I didn't think it was very natural. It felt kind of forced. And overall, I feel like this movie knows what it wants to be. It has the correct tone, and it's not like a happy Avengers movie. Our heroes are losing one battle after the other as Thanos is getting more and more Infinity Stones, and he's getting closer and closer to achieve his goal. There are so many sad moments in this film, from Gamora's sacrifice to everybody fading into dust, and Tom Holland doing a really great job at improvising that scene. I remember seeing this movie on premiere and coming out just speechless. It was me and my friend. I did not say a word all night. I was blown away. I never thought that they would just kill everybody off. Characters over 22 different movies. I was in shock, honestly. I think this movie does such a good job at tugging on our emotions and making us feel for these characters. But at the same time, Infinity War can be really fun as we're watching Captain America, Bucky, and Black Panther defend Wakanda, and that's just super cool. And then we have different moments with Iron Man and with Doctor Strange on Titan. And we have all of these different groups of people that haven't quite gotten together yet, like in Endgame, but they're starting to, and we're seeing more interaction. And it does feel like a cinematic universe at this point. I get chills when Thor comes in and says, "Bring me Thanos." That is one of the coolest scenes in cinema history. Overall, I feel like the MCU has done a really good job at creating characters that we can get to know personally, grow to love, and also characters that we hate to see go. Thanks so much for watching, I really appreciate it. If you liked the video, go ahead and smash that like button, really helps out. Check out my other ranking videos down below in the description. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel by hitting that little clapper. Comment down below what your favorite MCU movie of all time is and what your favorite Avengers film of all time is. Also, if you have any movies that you want me to review or do a ranking series of, go ahead and comment that down below as well. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Alright, see ya.